Hi, my name is Ron McMillan, and I am the president of RHH Heritage Homes. At RHH Heritage Homes, health and safety is paramount. This video is intended to communicate to new RHH Heritage Homes team members and trade employees the principles of health and safety and highlight topics which we feel are most important for health and safety in the workplace. RHH Heritage Homes is committed to the health, safety, and well-being of all of our team members in the workplace. This steadfast commitment means we are dedicated to continuous improvement in our health and safety practices. We understand the importance of responsibility and accountability of health and safety and incident prevention, which we extend to all team members of RHH Heritage Homes. The key elements of this commitment are safety and incident prevention, and they must not be compromised for the sake of expediency. Health and safety is a daily routine and mindset. Relevant laws, our safety policies, and work practices are the minimum standard. Team members will be trained, encouraged, and directed to follow safe work practices and to use and wear appropriate safety equipment as required. Reporting health and safety concerns is the responsibility of all team members. Appropriate, firm, and consistent response will be taken when health and safety deficiencies or contravention are noted. At RHH Heritage Homes, health and safety is an absolute top priority. Incident avoidance is important on all of our job sites to ensure everyone goes home from work injury-free every day. Over the next few minutes, you are going to see various aspects of our health and safety program laid out. Please pay close attention because our expectation is 100% compliance. Our team members are our greatest asset, and as such, ensuring your safety is integral to our values and company culture. It cannot and will not be compromised. At RHH Heritage Homes, safety is everyone's right and everyone's responsibility. Thank you.
This video has been prepared to provide you with some basic information and outline our expectations for you to comply with our health and safety policy and program. In addition to this video, you will be required to attend a site-specific orientation each time you start a new project at a new location. At every site office, a copy of the Occupational Health and Safety Act and Construction Regulations 21391 will be made available. This is known as the Green Book. Our policy and procedures are designed to comply to this minimum standard. However, if your employer exceeds any of these regulations, you must comply with that higher standard. Let's start off with rights and responsibilities. All workers have three basic rights. Right to refuse unsafe work. If you have any reason to believe that you may be injured while performing a task because of unsafe equipment, or perhaps the workplace conditions, please contact the site supervisor immediately or inform your supervisor of the unsafe condition and offer your possible solution. 95% of work refusals can be resolved immediately through basic communication. Remember, our site safety reps and safety managers are always available to help resolve any worker's concerns. Safety is our priority. The next right is the right to know about hazards in the workplace, actual or potential. This right was further strengthened by WHMIS 2015 legislation. You will be asked to confirm that you've completed WHMIS 2015 training at our site-specific orientation. Other site-specific hazards will also be mentioned, so please make sure you attend this orientation your first day on site. Updates to site hazards are covered at the mandatory weekly safety talks that our site supervisors will perform. The third worker right is the right to participate in health and safety at the workplace. Workers can exercise this right in several ways. First is by simply speaking up about the safety concerns. Talk to the worker health and safety representative on site or your supervisor. We encourage workers to inform our supervisors of any safety concerns and particularly near misses or close calls. Remember, every worker must report any incident to their supervisor. It's the law here in Ontario. Some general rules for all personnel entering a RHH Heritage Homes construction project include: always check in with a site supervisor the first time you enter a job site. The site supervisor will provide you with a site-specific safety orientation and a pamphlet to ensure that you are aware of any actual or potential hazards on that project. you must always be prepared for work, so bring your PPE, hard hat, boots, high-vis, and eye protection. Our supervisors will not allow you to put yourself or others at risk, so come prepared. Specific information is included in our orientation pamphlet, such as directions to the nearest hospital, job site hours, which are typically 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. However, you will be notified if your site hours are different. The name and contact details of the job site supervisor, also our health and safety representatives, first aid kit location and certified first aider, drinking water, washroom location, designated smoking area, any disposal areas, the site emergency plan and gathering point, the parking area and site traffic plan if required, PPE requirements, any other specific site hazards. Here in Ontario, in order to work on a construction site, you must have completed at least Health and Safety Worker Awareness Training, WHMIS 2015 GHS, Working at Heights, CPO approved. Other training may be required subject to your work or the equipment you are using. Please always have your training cards available for inspection. Let's now speak to other policies that Reed's Heritage Homes adheres to. Reed's Heritage Homes has a respect in the workplace policy. We want our projects to be a safe place to work free from the fear or risk of violence or harassment or workplace reprisals. However, if you have been harassed, threatened, or physically assaulted, you must report this to your supervisor immediately before the situation escalates. Reed's Heritage Homes will not tolerate any inappropriate behavior, and we enforce a strict discipline policy regarding non-compliance of site rules. However, if a safety violation is deemed serious enough, you may be removed from the site for a single infraction immediately. In addition, we have a zero-tolerance policy regarding alcohol and drug use at the workplace. Every worker must be fit and able to work safely. Any workers taking prescription medication that could alter their judgment must report this situation to their supervisor prior to starting work. Supervisors must assign work in accordance with the worker's abilities to ensure their safety and that of others at the workplace. Smoking or vaping is not permitted at or in the workplace, so ask for the location of the designated smoking areas on your job site. Distracted workers and cell phone use, including hands-free, is prohibited on any construction site when a worker is driving any vehicle or using any equipment, or when performing a task where their undivided attention is required. You will find caution signs placed at certain areas where there's a higher hazard due to the work being done in the area. Please follow the instructions on these hazard signs. Signs are meant to warn workers about areas that contain additional hazards present, and in some cases will provide specific instructions like overhead wires, for example. If you or your crew are creating additional hazards, you are required to place caution signs at the entrance to any areas where the additional hazards are present, such as missing guardrails, lifting areas, excavation, and any other similar situations. Let's discuss PPE. PPE, personal protective equipment, will not eliminate the hazard, but will help to reduce the effect of an incident. And as PPE is mandatory on construction projects, we would like to talk about our requirements. An unpainted hard hat in good condition with no signs of sun damage or cracks in the outer shell or the suspension liner. This must be worn at all times while on the project. CSA green patch safety boots that are also in good condition. Safety boots must also have the orange Omega symbol, which means the boots have additional electrical protection. Safety glasses must be worn when you're using a tool or a piece of equipment that has moving or rotating parts and creates dust or flying debris. This includes hammers. Hearing protection is required when you're exposed to loud noises or using loud tools that will damage your hearing, such as drills to nail guns, compressors, powder-actuated nailers, Hilti guns, jackhammers, skill saws, and other heavy equipment. If the manufacturer of the product's instruction states you shall use, you must use them. Reed's Heritage Homes requires all workers to wear a high-visibility traffic vest when working on our projects, particularly when near excavation equipment or construction vehicles. As skin protection is a requirement for all workers on a construction project, long pants and a regular t-shirt as a minimum is mandatory, possibly more if the conditions warrant. Some trades may require gloves to be worn. Again, we always recommend these to be worn particularly when there is a risk of cuts. Respiratory protection is also needed when there are any respiratory hazards such as dust, vapors, and fumes. A current fit test record will also be required. Due to the amount of construction injuries and deaths each year, we would like to take some time to review some of our top hazards found on construction projects and some control measures. Up to 30% of all construction accidents are directly attributed to poor housekeeping. This is the most common hazard on a construction project. Regulation 35 requires that you clean your work area as necessary to avoid creating a hazardous situation. We at Reed's Heritage Homes expect you to clean as you go and not just at the end of the day. This is very simple. When you find yourself tripping through your own scrap or materials, the area needs to be cleaned. Falls are still the #1 killer on construction sites, accounting for approximately 40% of all construction fatalities. Falls happen for many reasons, including falling from roofs, off open edges of a building, through openings in the floor or roof of a building, skylights, off unguarded scaffolds or work platforms, from ladders and into open excavations and trenches. Remember, every worker on a construction project who works at a height must have completed a CPO-approved Working at Heights training course within the last 36 months. Without this, you will not be allowed on our projects or sites. Fall protection is broken down into 3 parts: fall prevention, travel restraint, and fall arrest. Fall prevention is usually #1 and consists of properly built guardrails and floor covers that will prevent workers from falling. Fall prevention, as the name indicates, will implement measures to prevent the fall from happening in the first place. Travel restraint and fall arrest systems, if set up and properly adjusted, will safely stop a worker before they get into a position of a potential fall or before they hit the ground or a lower level, but they do not prevent a fall from happening. Therefore, on all construction projects, guardrails are the #1 form of all prevention. Guardrails must be in place at all times. Ontario law requires guardrails whenever a worker is exposed to an open edge or an opening and is exposed to a fall hazard of 8 feet or more. If a guardrail is not reasonably possible to install, then you can proceed with alternative measures such as fall arrest. If you see a missing guardrail, you are responsible to immediately report it, or if possible, replace it and then report it. If a guardrail must be removed, for example for material access, first the worker must put in an adequate temporary measure, usually a fall protection system. Also, the area must be barricaded and warning signs must be placed to warn other workers of the hazard. All guardrails must consist of a top rail, a mid rail, and a toe board to prevent tools and materials from falling off the edges. The top rail must be approximately 1 meter above the floor, and guardrails must be built strong enough to stop a worker from falling through. If you see a poorly constructed guardrail, you are required by law to report the potentially hazardous conditions back to your supervisor immediately. This applies to all dangerous conditions. Remember, by reporting, you can prevent an injury or even a death. Floor covers can be used on openings that are too small to place a guardrail around. Covers must be strong enough for the purpose, completely cover the opening, and identified as being a cover and secured in place. Regulations require that any worker who cannot be protected by guardrails or floor covers must wear a fall arrest harness tied off to an adequate attachment point. For example, when framing floors or working on roofs. Proper inspection of your equipment is also covered by your training, as is the need to have a prepared rescue plan. Our site supervisor must be informed of any hazardous work prior to you starting to ensure the proper safety procedures are in place. Ladders and step ladders must always be used with caution. Always start out by choosing the correct ladder for the job, which includes a proper size ladder. Check that it's in good condition and always do an inspection. Ensure it's labeled grade 1 or better. Also, ensure that it's set up on a firm level ground. If the ladder is used for access, make sure it is extended 3 rungs above the landing, Its angle is set up between 1 to 3 and 1 to 4, and it is secured to top and bottom to prevent movement. And lastly, never stand on the top 2 steps of any ladder. Make sure it's set up properly to prevent overreaching. When scaffolds are used, they must be built in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. A copy of the engineer's design must be made available with our site supervisor. A few basics about scaffolds. Proper mud sills are always important. Planks must be laid down for support. Base plates must be used and secured to the mud sills, and in most cases, screw jacks are used for leveling. Cross braces are required both vertically and horizontally. Section ties are required between the frames. Guardrails are required if the fall hazard is greater than 8 feet, and scaffolds must also be provided with the means of access or egress, usually a ladder or possibly a tower stair. Scaffold platforms must comply with the following rules. Work platform width must be a minimum of 18 inches wide using 2-inch by 10-inch rough-cut planks. When the platform is above 8 feet, it must be fully planked and be secured in place, usually by cleating the planks. Electrical hazards are the number 2 cause of deaths on a construction site, of which 60% are caused from overhead lines. So please, look up. Signs must be placed at the base of all overhead wires. Ensure locates have been completed for all underground work, and remember, locates are only valid for 30 days. Ensure all electrical tools or equipment is inspected before use. All electrical power used outside or in any wet areas must be protected by a ground fault circuit interrupter or GFCI receptacle. Missing ground pins on extension cords and power tools is also a common problem. Only certified electrical workers are allowed to perform electrical work, and all electrical workers, please remember, if you are ever standing in front of an open live electrical panel and you can see the live conductors or bus bars, you need arc flash training. Other killer construction hazards include blind spots from reversing vehicles or equipment. All construction vehicles or equipment with blind spots must have a trained signaler who must be wearing a tearaway traffic vest. All reversing equipment need an operating backup beeper and should be guided by a spotter or signaler. Getting crushed or struck by construction equipment is another top killer in construction. Stay clear of equipment and the entire area if you don't need to be there. And if you must be in the area, always make eye contact and get the signal from the operator before walking across the path of any equipment or dump trucks. The last hazard that we want to make you aware of is invisible gases, carbon monoxide in particular. It's odorless, invisible, it's usually slightly lighter than air, and at approximately 1,000 parts per million, carbon monoxide is immediately deadly. Asleep in 10 minutes and dead within 30 minutes. Think about that number, folks. 1,000 parts per million. 1/10 of 1%. That's all it takes. If something doesn't look or seem right, or if something looks unsafe, we want to encourage you to speak up and ask questions. Talk to your supervisor and/or your health and safety representative about your safety concerns. Here at RHH Heritage Homes, safety is our culture. Thank you for watching. Work smart, work safe.